Hi everyone and welcome back to the Shack. Please excuse my gravelly voice. It's been an odd few weeks having been a host to the old
non-specific ailment.
All on the mend now thankfully, and I bet you're wondering what I've been pondering whilst lying around in my bed. Well, let's find out. Here at the Shack, we'd like to give a big thanks to the sponsor of this video, my good friends at PCBWay. They'll be helping us out with our PCB fabrication needs and offer a very professional and high quality service for extremely reasonable prices. They can even populate your PCBs for you if you're tired of waving a hot iron around. There's a link to their website in the description where you can check out all of the amazing services they offer. Now back to the show. As you may know if you're a regular viewer of the channel, back in the late 1980s, after a long stint with the ZX Spectrum and an Amstrad CPC 464, I had a somewhat swift progression from the Atari ST to the Amiga 500, and ultimately by 1991 I'd swapped all of those machines and grabbed myself an IBM PC compatible. I remember having thought that not upgrading to an Amiga 1200 but moving to the world of IBM PCs was a good move for my career, which I guess ultimately it may have been, so I can't really complain now, but back then coming to that PC from an Amiga 500 was a bitter pill to swallow. Now I've mentioned before that the graphics card technology for PCs really started to kick off in the early 90s, and it wasn't long before I was spending my hard-earned cash on VGA cards, which when paired with the right software really started to impress. Sound wise, I remember being stuck with an ad-lib for a while before moving on to a Sound Blaster Pro, and even then they couldn't really compare that with the Amiga. And then, one day, at a computer fair, I had the good fortune to see and hear Monkey Island 2 running on a PC with 256 colour VGA graphics and with a Roland MT-32 sound module hooked up. And I was blown away. To this day, just hearing the opening few bars of the Monkey Island 2 music on the MT-32 sends shivers down my spine. I mean, just listen to this. So anyway, I knew I had to have an MT-32, and after a little bit of saving, I had one hooked up to my PC at home. By this time, my PC was of course like Tigger's new broom. It was still my PC, even though every part of it had been upgraded and nothing remained of the machine I first bought. But at least now I had graphics, music and sound that were for the time completely amazing. And what then ensued was a fantastic couple of years with that MT-32, Day of the Tentacle, Space Quest, Betrayal at Krondor, Champions of Kryn, the list goes on. Now, at the time, I didn't realise that the Roland MT-32 had in fact been on the market since 1987, and I only recently learnt that the device had been around at the same time I'd had my Atari ST, and that many people had been using that combination of equipment to make music for years before I even realised it existed. It appears that there were even some games for the Atari ST that had Roland MT-32 support out of the box. Well, this nugget of information really caused the old neurons to fire in my noggin, and I knew I had to get me some Atari ST Roland MT-32 action. After all, I've been looking for an excuse to get a synthesizer for the ST for a while. So onto Flea Bay I went, full of anticipation. Well, that anticipation quickly disappeared when I realised that I was looking at upwards of £250 plus postage for a decently looked after example. So into the rabbit hole I went, and I found something really cool. It's a project called MT-32 Pi by Dale Winham, and it's effectively a bare metal Roland MT-32 emulator for the Raspberry Pi, and it does exactly what it says on the tin, and a bit more too. It turns your Raspberry Pi into a dedicated emulator of the Roland MT-32, complete with the ability to extend the default sound fonts to give you General MIDI, Roland GS and Yamaha XG sounds too, and when coupled with one of the dedicated MT-32 hats for the Pi, you get a really tactile experience with MIDI ports, control buttons and a display. Where's my credit card?
Several days later.
And here's the hat I've gone for from a seller on Tindy called Retrofletch in Sweden. This cost me about £37 fully built, and this is designed to sit on top of a Pi 3 Model A+, which is plenty powerful enough to run MT-32 Pi at all of the best quality settings. This hat has a MIDI import so I can hook it up to the ST, it's got a nice hi-fi DAC circuit for digital quality sound rather than the standard PWM headphone jack, and lots of other goodies too. Now, setting this up is very simple. Firstly, format an SD card to FAT32 format, anything 4GB and upwards will be fine, and then download the software and unzip it to the SD card. Simples. You will need to locate a couple of official Roland ROMs which can't be freely distributed, but they didn't seem particularly hard to find. There's also a config file you'll have to read through and potentially change depending on what particular screen, hi-fi DAC, button configuration, etc. that your particular Pi hat has. But it's a 5-minute job and all of the details and options are on the website. This Pi hat is a lovely design by Chris JH and really looks the part. I might see if I can modify this to look and feel like an original MT-32 as a bit of a fun project. Anyway, now it's all plugged in, let's load up Mastertracks Pro on our ST and see if the included sample MT-32 song files play. Need to switch to medium resolution first and then off we go. Okay, we're in Mastertracks. Let's open the first of these MT-32 samples. Fingers crossed everyone. Well, that's proper corny, just the sort of music you get when you press the demo button on any synthesizer from the 90s. Let's try another sample track to see if that's any better. Well, a bit, but not much. So how about a game? Let's try Hero's Quest, So You Want to Be a Hero, or as it was later known, Quest for Glory, So You Want to Be a Hero. They had to change the name because Hero's Quest is shockingly similar to Hero Quest, a really good computer version of the excellent board game. But anyway, we need to load the music driver and install that, like this. And then we can launch the program. And I guess the trouble here is that the quality of the music far outstrips the quality of the graphics, and it all seems a bit mismatched. But anyway, it works and shows that the MT-32 Pi project really is a good option if you want those MT-32 feels. This will of course work with any MIDI enabled device as long as you can connect the MIDI cable. It's just a shame that there isn't an ST version of Monkey Island 2, or that the Amiga version doesn't support MIDI. So I guess still the only way to really enjoy Monkey Island 2 is a DOS PC hooked up to one of these. Incidentally, I recall specifically the day my love for the MT-32 was soured by the emergence of one of the best game soundtracks ever, and it didn't need a Roland. Westwood Studios' Command and Conquer, but that's a video for another day. Anyway, before we wrap up this episode, I wanted to say a huge thank you to Sarah Fawcett, who, in an act of solidarity, sent Mrs. Retro Shack this lovely tea towel all the way from California, with the strict instructions that I can't use it. It's for Mrs. Retro Shack's use only. Thank you so much, Sarah, and I'm glad you're enjoying the channel. There's a little gift in the post from us. Also, qualifying patron members will shortly be receiving a Retro Shack coffee mug from which you can enjoy your morning cuppa. Thanks for the continued support, we really appreciate it. And lastly today, I want to send a big thank you to Geordie Solis from MSX Makers, who has been watching the Omega MSX2 compatible computer build we've been doing over the last 6 weeks or so, and very kindly sent a couple of add-on boards for the machine. I'll make sure to include those in a future episode. Thanks for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed the episode. If you like the video, please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell for notifications of new content. Please leave your comments below, as you know we always love to read them. If you've got anything that you'd like to donate and see featured on the channel, please drop us an email. If you'd like to support us, there are links to our Patreon and our Buy Us a Coffee page in the banner on the main channel page. So, until next time in the Retro Shack, it's a croaky goodbye from me.